two pieces to this. One is a big corporation like Tesla investing in Bitcoin itself, and then there's the separate component part, which is using Bitcoin for payment. I actually want to start there, if we could, for a second, which is to say, are you of the view that people are going to use Bitcoin for payment? And I ask because if you believe that Bitcoin's value is going to continue to go up, if it's considered an investment, it's unclear to me why you would necessarily trade the Bitcoins now for a car. Chamath Palihapitiya was on Twitter just yesterday showing off a piece of real estate that he traded at the time for what he thought was $1.6 million of Bitcoin. But in fact, he said today, I think it's something on the order of the piece of property that he bought for $1.6 million, he effectively gave away $128 million worth of Bitcoin. So I'm unclear why people would actually use this to buy their car tomorrow.
Well, Tesla is not the first company to announce that they're going to take payments in Bitcoin. I think we've seen this quite a bit, certainly over the last 7-8 years that I've been involved in the ecosystem. And really, for most companies, it's just opening up yet another avenue for additional customers or additional ways for people to pay them. How successful or how, what percentage of Tesla's sales will come in through Bitcoin obviously remains to be seen.
Okay, so I'm less bullish on that component part. What seems more interesting to me is the idea that the treasuries of major corporations are going to start buying Bitcoin. We've talked about it, actually doing it through Grayscale and other places because of some of the custodial issues. What kind of conversations are you having behind the scenes right now with companies?
Well, I think the important thing to remember, if you're a corporate CFO or a treasurer or even a leader like Elon Musk, we're not surprised to see this happening. They're looking at Bitcoin either as a reserve asset or for the diversification benefits that it may provide. And a lot of corporates are going to move into this. We saw a few of this, go on in 2020, and I think a lot more of it's to come this year. But it's important to remember that this isn't for a quick trade, right? These are companies that are, trying to navigate a low-rate environment, looking to shore up their balance sheets, and they're going to be invested in this over the longer term, not just to, get out of this trade if Bitcoin moves 10, 20%.
But when Michael, when corporate treasurers or CFOs call you, and I imagine you're having these conversations, I don't know if you can speak to any of these conversations, I have to think that there's some dialogue about valuation, right? You'd have to say, if we buy now at 46,000, is that a fair price? What kind of volatility are we going to have? How are we going to run this, by the way, on our balance sheet, given the volatility quarter to quarter? Are we going to mark to market? We consider that? What kind of investment are we going to consider this, right?
They're not betting the entire house, Andrew, right? It's relatively small positions on these balance sheets. A lot of these companies have massive stockpiles of cash, and they do believe that there's a lot of room for growth. For a lot of companies, they're even just looking that despite the massive price run that Bitcoin has had, it still only represents less than, for example, 10% of the market cap of gold. And so they do see it ripe for opportunity.
Right. No, I'm appreciative of all of the arguments in favor of Bitcoin. I'm trying to get at, and if you could try to take us a little bit, are people not calling you?
Oh, certainly. We're not only having conversations with hedge funds and pensions and endowments, but now certainly corporates as well.
Okay, so when the corporates call you, I imagine there's a conversation. There's got to be a conversation about value, about where it is now, what the volatility is going to look like, how it's going to be accounted for, right? There's actually, if you're a publicly traded company, accounting for this becomes an issue, especially if there's going to be volatility. Just help us with those conversations.
Sure. Conversation point number one starts around regulatory concerns, and actually most of those conversations are characterized by a lack of regulatory concerns. A lot of the folks making decisions around this realize how much regulatory clarity has been provided around this. I think the second piece of the conversation is around sizing and timing. And so you're seeing corporations think about anywhere from, on the low end, maybe 25 basis points to on the higher end, maybe 100, 200 basis points over time. And they recognize that they don't need to get invested all at once. They've seen other corporations like MicroStrategy leg into this trade over time, and they ultimately believe in the growth of this. So buying Bitcoin, whether it's here 10% higher, 10% lower, ultimately is not going to matter if they believe that Bitcoin is going to do or have the type of growth that they think it is going to have over time. And I think the last piece of it has to do with portfolio construction. Where does this fit on their balance sheet? Are they selling treasuries to make room for this? Are they, taking cash out in order to buy Bitcoin? Where is this going to fit in their balance sheet? And I think that becomes probably the biggest challenge for most investors.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.